We're live. We're live. Do you understand what that means? You can show them whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me, but there is an upcharge for that. So, yeah. Yes, we're live. We're live right now. You know, I mean, you guys got a little extra money. I mean, look, fucking S&P is down 4% today. I mean, you know, money talks, bullshit fucking walks, right? So, all right, guys. So, we are freaking live right now as we speak. So, I'm going to turn down the music and we're going to get into it. Today, we are going to be with Kevin, okay? Kevin is an Evassive driving instructor. I don't think I can mention the name of the company he works for, not yet at least, but he is also a former law enforcement professional. He was a cop for a long time. Did a lot of very cool stuff with his career. And today we're going to be getting into, he was on a presidential protection detail for a little while. He was obviously a driving instructor for the law enforcement agency he worked for. He busted lots of stupid criminals. And here he is live. What's going on, Kevin? He's just connecting to audio right now. So give it a second and coming right in. So we are definitely excited to have you on. Kevin, what's up, man? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I don't think the audio is working on his end right now. Let's see if we can get something going. It might be on mute. Might have to tap on mute. Still connecting.
Hey, how about now?
Loud and clear to me, bro.
Oh, shit. Hang on. Just lost you.
Okay.
Let me see where you went, man.
Little technical difficulties, but that speaks.
Yeah, that's me, man. I'm not tech savvy.
Makes two of us, man. If I had a nickel for every time the tech went wrong with me, I'd be a wealthy man.
Right on.
Bro, how you been?
Been well, man. Yourself?
Good. Yeah, solid, dude. Busy as shit, but solid. So that's good. How's everything going with teaching and all that?
Good stuff, man. Yeah, I've been busy. So things have picked up. Yeah, we got some really good contracts coming in, man. We've been training quite a lot. So
good. You know, it's awesome that things are picking back up. I mean, I know during COVID times, things were a little bit slower. I mean, obviously you guys have the government contracts and everything, so you're still out there, but probably not as much, if I'm correct.
Right. Yeah. So COVID put a hurting on us for a little bit. People couldn't travel from overseas, couldn't come over because of the restrictions, and all that stuff has lightened up a lot. And we're starting to get some of those contracts we had 3 years ago coming back in now. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's good times, man. It's busy. It's good for the pocketbook.
So. Hell yeah, man. And that's what I'm talking about. Money makes me super excited. So
right on.
Dude, I remember being out there a couple of years ago, you know, pre-COVID times, and it was crazy the people you'd meet. You'd have guys from the Middle East, guys from Europe, and guys from like all over the world all thrown into one class. It was cool to see.
Yeah. It's can be challenging, trying to communicate with people from you may have three people in your car from from 3 different places in the world that speak 3 different languages. So yeah, it's pretty can be challenging at times.
I imagine during the heat of the moment, trying to communicate in a secondary language can be a little bit difficult sometimes.
Yeah, kind of go to the sign language, like stop. Yeah. So yeah, it's amazing though, just by voice inflections and sign language type, just basic sign language stuff, that much it's generalized across the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, some things are definitely
like, stop. Yeah. So yeah.
So for the guys and girls out there who don't know, Kevin is an Evassive driving instructor, and I'm not going to mention the name of the company. If you want to, Kevin, that's cool. But from my end, it's going to remain just a random company that you work for.
Yeah, that's fine. Because not knowing what we discuss, and I mean, Yeah, we'll see how it goes at the end. I mean,
I
because
think, yeah.
maybe you have to give it a shameless plug, So in case
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
come out.
Either way, man, because sometimes we touch on things in here that are a little bit out there, right? So you never
Right.
know. But
Yeah.
so Kevin works for this unnamed company that has a lot of government contracts. They also, I think, once or twice a year have an open registration where
Yeah.
civilians can come train.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, we have one coming up second week of June. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And me and Jen met Kevin over there. We were doing an evasive driving course, and then we did the was it the off road? Girl, was it the off road course?
We did off road, and then we did the shooting too.
And then the shooting course as well,
Yeah.
which was really cool. So
yeah, because you guys did you also did the evasive 2-day or the 3-day evasive driving course, right?
We did. Yeah, we did.
And then you did the off road, and then you did a day of shooting as well.
Exactly.
Right?
So that was like a full week of training, and for her, by the way, say hi.
Hi, Kevin.
How you doing?
You good? How are you?
I'm doing well. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah.
So for Jen, I mean, it was a straight up ninja boot camp, right? Like she had never done anything like that.
Nothing like that. It had so much adrenaline dropped in my brain. I was like so overwhelmed. The driving especially, and doing all the J and Y turns. I was like,
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
You haven't done it in a rental car yet, have you?
No, I'm very glad that I have not.
She won't let me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was super cool. And it turns out that we all kind of hit it off together and kind of thought the same way about things. So now, Kev, I was just before you came on telling the guys that where we left off on part one, you were about to kind of get into it with us. You had like an interesting story. You were working on a presidential detail with, I think, one of the with Bush Jr., right?
It was President, Junior's first election, his first inauguration. Yeah, the hanging Chad election. So
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I was on the civil disturbance unit with the police department, and we were tasked to go down and provide security, security along with other metropolitan agencies. And it was something we geared up. We trained a lot for leading up to that, expecting, of course, as contentious as the election was, we were expecting, a lot of problems. Intelligence we gathered had back then. It's the Black Bloc, which is modern day Antifa now.
Oh wow!
They were going to be there doing stuff, and as it was, they were there doing stuff. So anyway, it was pretty interesting. I don't know if you want me to just go on and just keep rolling with it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. So at the time, I was on the bicycle patrol, the neighborhood patrol unit. As part of that assignment, you had to be a civil disturbance unit member, which meant that we had, at least at minimum quarterly training. Some days it was, or at least twice a year, we had multiple days of training that just led in, one day into the next. But anyway, we geared up for this, and we met at a high school at like 4:30 in the morning on the day of the inauguration. It was cold. We expecting rain and snow, and we just knew it was going to be a miserable day weather-wise, and we knew it was going to be miserable to work, period. So we get down into DC, and we were supposed to get sworn in on the steps of the U.S. Capitol because we were going to be U.S. Marshals for one day, so that we would have arrest powers in the district. And we got down in DC about, 5:30, almost 6 o'clock in the morning, and our bus pulls up, and all of a sudden the Metropolitan Police come running on the bus going, "Hey, we need you guys online now." And we can't do anything because we're not sworn in. So they got whoever's going to swear us in to come and do it in some damn alleyway. We were just in some just nasty alleyway in DC, getting sworn in as U.S. Marshals for the day. 6 o'clock in the morning, they're already throwing tear gas down there. And this is stuff you didn't really probably see on TV, but I mean, tear gas was being thrown at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're grabbing our mobility gear and we're going on post. And we were at Pennsylvania and Constitution Avenue, which is where intelligence said that the breach was going to happen. And I was at the very end of our line of Fairfax County guys before it flowed into the Metropolitan guys. And so, you look down the line, and as far as you can see, the parade route is just lined with officers on both sides of the road. And it pained me all day to see the stuff I saw. It was bad enough having to stand there because it was cold out, but to see the disrespect for our country and for our process, it was just saddening. I was there, and they basically had bicycle racks. That was our barrier. They were basically flex cuffs together. That was the barrier between us and the presidential route. So very easily, massive humanity could snap those flex cuffs and move the gates, and just we were the last line of defense, if you will. But there was a gentleman. I say a gentleman. I use that term loosely, but he was probably my age back then. So he's probably in his early 50s. He was there at the very beginning of the thing. I got on post probably at 6:15, 6:20. And he was there, and every time a limo or anything that looked like it was tied to the president or his cabinet or whatever came by, this guy, and excuse me, I'm just going to tell it like it is, he was up leaning against the rail, flipping them off, fuck you, and I remember that the hatred coming out of that man was like, I just couldn't grasp it at the time. I can understand it now, with the current day stuff, but I was much younger, and I was like, I don't understand how somebody could be so angry. But anyway, I digress. I told everybody around me, I said, hey, if the shit goes bad, that guy is mine. Because I had to sit there and listen to him all day, and I'm like, if it goes bad, he's mine. And so the day goes on, and a group of college kids come up, and they're in front of us, and I'm going to screw the officer's name up, but it was a Philadelphia police officer. Was killed back in the early 80s by a radio host, Mahmoud Abu Jahar. I don't know if you guys remember. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing the family any justice. I'm pretty sure the first his name was Dan something, the officer's name. But anyway, he was killed. He was murdered by this radio personality. And the radio personality was put on he got a death sentence in Pennsylvania, which is kind of unheard of. But they started this chant, it was brick by brick, wall by wall, free Abu Jul Mahar, or whatever his name was. And I was like, I had to sit there and listen to this all day. And then the Black Panthers moved in. They came up in a group of about 8 to 10 of them, and they started, they got on the megaphone, and they started talking to the contingent of officers to my right, which was mainly African-American. And they were telling them, hey, my brother, put down your gun and your badge and come over here where you're loved. That cracker next to you just soon shoot you in the locker room. And it was just disgusting to see that. We just saw the whole, the lowest form of humanity I think I could see all day. And I just had to deal with it all day. And then they started a chant, kill the pigs. They were like, kill the pigs, kill the pigs. And then I got kind of confused because the group that was chanting free that cop killer starts chanting leave the cops alone, leave the cops alone. I'm like, wait a second, I'm not getting it. Maybe I was part of it. Maybe they wanted to confuse us. I don't know. But they did a good job at it. But then we had, I could see in the peripheral in the background because you could see a lot of the black people with their mask on and dressed in all black. We had, and I remember this one guy, it saddens me because it had started to rain, the roads were wet, and he had the American flag tied onto his belt loop. and it was just dragging across the ground, and he was just walking back and forth, and I was just, the patriot in me just wanted to do unspeakable things to him, so, but so as the parade started, or the presidential parade started, he had, I believe President Bush had been outside the vehicle for a part of it. And then right before they got the Pennsylvania Constitution, they had a breach. And I could see it. It was about 2 blocks down from where we were at. And I could see Chief Ramsey. Chief Ramsey was revered chief of the Metropolitan Police Department back in the 90s and early 2000s. And I could see him getting stick time in the middle of the street on the protester that got through. He and a couple other guys were wearing them out, and but then they had pushed the president in the car, and I remember Secret Service guys hanging on to the limo as it was going by us, and so they hurried up, and that parade was pretty much over after that breach. Everything just kind of like sped on past us, which was fine with me because I was cold and wet and was ready for it to be over. But Chief Ramsey, I don't know how much you guys know about him. He went to Philadelphia, became chief of police there, and I'm not sure if he's still there or not. But he was very well respected among his men, and he actually walked the whole parade route and shook every officer's hand as he came through, just as a form of saying thanks to for what we did that day. So. But anyway, yeah, that's my presidential inauguration story, and I'm glad that I didn't have to go through another one. I'm not sure I could have stomached any of the ones that came after that one. So
there's so many like scum out there, man. And when you go to DC, you really see it. Even when we were there, was it the last time? I think it was the time before. They're always out there. The Israelites, the black Israelites.
They love
yelling at us and calling all the white people and Asian people bad names, and it's just like, what? Like, this is Freedom Town, man. Like, there's no need for that, But they're out there. DC's kind of seems to bring a lot of the trash out of the woodwork,
That and the mentally disturbed people. It has a way of attracting all that, because of the government conspiracies and things like that. So,
and it's. As far as government conspiracy goes, right? Like, there's always a shred of truth in every conspiracy, which is probably what makes it able to go out there, right, and circulate. But there's a lot of that stuff, man, that, like, I put it like this. Like, I'm sure you know who Alex Jones is, right?
I do.
Yeah. So, like, if you go back and watch his stuff, like, let's say 2010, 2012, 2015 even, right? And then you look at what's transpired since then, and you go back and you look, you're like, holy shit, like, this guy was on point. He said so much that, like, legitimately came true. But then if you look at, like, everything that he was saying, of course he's right about half of it, right? Or some of it. But there was a lot that he was saying, like, that people, like lizard people and stuff like that, it's just kind of outlandish.
I have a hard time latching on to that, but but my Alex Jones story is this. I was I was a lieutenant of our investigative section at the Sully station, which is the western end of the county. And there was a conference. You guys heard of the Bilderberg conference, correct?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so I really, didn't want to be a willing participant of it, but I became a willing participant of it when, or unwilling, when they had that. I think it was back in 2012 or 13. I can't remember. I think it might have been the spring of 13. They had it at a conference center, which was just right down from the police station. And Alex was there. This is before because I thought he was crazy back then, I was like, the guy's nuts. And again, I'm younger, maybe not as well in tune to what's going on, just in my own blinders on. And he was down there with a contingent of people, and they were blocking the ingress and egress of the people attending it. And I had no idea what it was, other than it was a job assignment to help oversee, make sure everything was running smoothly. And of course, media's down there, and he's, I think he's wanting to get locked up so he can have that, that 15 minutes of fame or whatever. But in hindsight, looking back about what, who attended those meetings and things and the stuff that he says went on there. I mean, again, you said there's got to be some shred of truth in it. And, and it makes me wonder about, hey, it's the top 1% of the people that run the world that are there, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the head of most all governments were there. And, anyway, it's eye-opening, so.
No, it is. And it's like, no one will ever know what really goes on inside those things. We can guess but at the same time, like, man, if you would have told me, I mean, I've always been kind of into conspiracy theories, but if you would have told me in like 2015 that, in 2020, like this virus is going to go around, they're going to give out.
Everything's going to shut down.
Yeah. And then, all the VAX and stuff like that. And like, I would have told you, well, like, I don't know, I might actually believed it, but I also could have very well said you're fucking crazy. But he called that, man. Like, he literally step by step, actually, he called it. So it's crazy. And then he said that a financial collapse would ensue and they would replace it with a digital currency. So who knows, man? Who knows what those people really talk about?
Yeah, I'm definitely frightened a little bit, to be quite honest with you, because some of these things that I thought he was crazy on, like you said, has come to fruition. And I jokingly tell my wife this, because my wife, she gets on me about, because I want everybody out there, I'm not a conspiracy nut all the time, but there are some I've latched onto. And I jokingly say, if I had talked to myself on the street when I was a street officer, say 15 years ago, I'd be like, man, this guy's nuts. You need, this guy probably needs to go get evaluated. Because some of it, I know I make light of it, but some of the things that we talk to people on the street about, because I told you that area has a tendency to bring in those that think the government's following them and that kind of stuff. Some of the stuff they talk about has been confirmed, that guys I thought were crazy back then. Some of that stuff's been confirmed, not that it was happening to them at the time, but some of the stuff they, that went on, about, phones being tapped and things like that. I'm like, man, you're crazy. But it's happening nowadays, so. But,
how's your wife feel about it? About your conspiracy theory? How's your wife feel about your conspiracy theory?
She, because I always say we getting around a crowd of people we maybe haven't seen in a while. I'll say something, and I was like, my wife thinks I'm crazy, and she goes, no, I don't think you're crazy. I just think that you, you read too much about it, or whatever. Like, no, you have to enlighten yourself,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, it's crazy though, man. I mean, like you said, dude, like a lot of this stuff has been proven true. And like, even look at right now with the whole baby formula thing, right? The shortage, and guys are going around saying, oh, they're stockpiling it at the border and giving it to the people coming in, to the illegals coming in. And then you heard, oh, you're crazy to think that. Well, today it was just confirmed. They were down there filming pallets upon pallets upon pallets of this stuff. Yeah. Just sitting there. They're giving it all to the illegals coming in.
I didn't believe it at first. I was like, there's no way.
She didn't think it's true.
No way. And then when I saw it and I was like, wow, I was like, they're really doing this. I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah. So, I what do you guys think of? Because I just turned the tables real quick. I mean, it seems like every couple of weeks, there's a shortage of something new coming along. And it's like when, the energy crisis right now is it should be a huge concern to everybody, because, obviously if you can't see the forest through the trees, it's their push to get everybody to go electric, and it's coming at a cost where, like, I'm on a fixed income now, right? I mean, besides what I work at my part-time job, I mean, I was counting on that money to last for a while, and now, with the price of having just the heating and cooling your home going out of hand, not to mention your travel, it's creating a huge hardship. And, for a president to say, hey, you're basically going to have to suck it up for a while is basically unacceptable, and,
Marie Antoinette let them eat cake, right? We keep hearing him say this audacious stuff like, oh, I can't think of something offhand, but him and his cabinet keep saying this stuff that's so out of touch with the American people and how we're all living.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what do you expect to happen, man? Like,
Only people with money can afford Teslas. Like,
exactly. You want to buy me a Tesla? I'm willing, but
I was like, where am I gonna get like $60,000 from? I was like, I'm in school.
And see, we're nowhere near. That may be the wave of the future. I mean, maybe 20 years from now or what have you. But there is, you look around. Here on the East Coast, you may find a charging station every, 30 miles or so. You know what I mean? And then, be it all like 6 charging stations at that point, and then when you realize it takes an hour and a half at one of those turbo charging stations to fully charge a Tesla, if you're a second guy in line, now you got to wait 3 hours. You got your hour and a half for the guy to charge his up, and then you got an hour and a half to charge yours up. And, if you're on a trip, so we're just not ready for it yet. And, for them, it's the wrong time to push it on people, especially when you're
like the worst time you could conceive of to push it on people.
So he, like I said, here in the Mid Atlantic, in Virginia, we're paying, $5.65 for diesel. I don't know what it is where you're at. Each day you see it
out here.
Out here, it's like a lot more. On the East Coast, it's not as much.
Yeah.
But
well, you see like in the morning, like in the evening, you'll come home $4.29 for gas, and you wake up in the morning and it's $4.39, and it's like, it's like 10-cent increase every day, and it never comes down at that same level. It's going to take. Man, it's going to take a good while to get this, to get it back down into, I don't know if it'd ever be palatable again, but it's.
Well, we were driving out here on the West Coast, man, and yesterday we found $4.95, $4.96, and I go, oh, that's cheap. And then I realized, I was like, what? That's like ridiculous, man. But that's so sad. It's just so sad.
Yeah, it is, and of course that. It correlates. It's a trickle down effect for everything, groceries. Yeah. You think about we've also heard the fertilizer bit, right? Where, that they're just gearing up for the summer crops, the fruits and vegetables to go sky high because the farmers say they can't get the fertilizer to fertilize their fields because a lot of the ingredients come from Russia. And, it's crazy, man. It's crazy times. Where I live in my neighborhood, we all live on like 5-acre parcels or more, and the number of people that have had planter boxes out. I see the UPS guy come by and he's delivering the planter boxes just about every household. So a lot of people here are growing their own stuff now, to try to, I guess, save a little bit on the grocery store,
You save a lot of money.
No, that's a good move, actually.
Yeah.
Wish I could grow my own freaking gas.
Yeah. So, back in the day, like 10 years ago, biodiesel was pretty a big thing. But now I don't think you can use it in the newer generation stuff because of having to use the diesel exhaust fluid and stuff that you have to put in it. So I don't think I could, even if I learned how to make biodiesel, I don't think I could use it in my truck, but at least my new truck,
Yeah. And then, on top of that, we got the wheat shortage. And like you said, the food shortage is going to be crazy.
Isn't there an oil issue too? Because doesn't Ukraine make a lot of oil?
Yeah, well, that's why gas prices are so expensive.
Oh, no, cooking oil.
Oh, cooking oil. Yeah. Actually, palm oil as well.
Yeah.
Palm oil, which we don't use a lot of, I don't think, but like all kinds of oil is, everything, just everything is insane.
Yeah.
And, look, the guys running the show right now are asleep at the wheel, and that's the hard truth. And there's nothing more to be really said except we're in a bad spot, and we wouldn't be in a bad spot if I mean, if things had gone the other way, we would be in a bad spot, just not nearly as bad.
It wouldn't be as bad.
But it makes me afraid. So like the Ministry of Truth, they're calling it, right? Where the DHS wanted to have disinformation, head of disinformation.
Oh,
person.
yeah, that lady.
And apparently that's no mas right now because she was caught just being incredibly biased on shit. But,
yeah,
that's my shock face.
yeah. But man, like when we got something like that, when the president and the powers that be want to put a Ministry of Truth in, like Nazi Germany did, that's very frightening to me.
Yeah. Just to allow certain people to say like, oh, this is true, this is not true.
Yeah.
That's what
So it all goes back to what I refer to as, or they refer to it as the summer of love in 2020, when they were burning the cities down and tearing statues down, and the old saying, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it, and we're seeing that right now. We're just I don't know. It saddens me because I think about the work that I did. I've served my country, and then I 27 years of law enforcement on the street. I'm seeing this stuff go for naught now. I mean, it's I equate it to like Vietnam, taking a hill and then giving it up. Losing a bunch of lives, blood, sweat, and tears, only to give it up. Days later after you take it. And I kind of feel like that's what we've done in this country. Is we've just, in 2 years, they've tore down everything that a lot of people worked so hard for and gave so much of their life for. And you look on the streets of America now, and crime is at an all-time high. And it's everywhere. It's not just in the Democratic-run cities where where a majority of the stuff is happening. I mean, it's all over. You can't. You can't let your guard down. So that's why I respect what you do, with the topics you cover about, street fighting and being ready, because it's ever so present now. You need to be ready now. So
people have gone nuts. People have gone crazy, and they don't have anything to lose either.
They don't have anything to lose. And when we started this, it was kind of a niche group of like, guys who ex-military and stuff like that, guys like you, Kevin. But now, we got housewives watching us. We got everyone and their mothers wanting to learn how to defend themselves. And
well, it's important.
They have to. That's why we keep going, and that's why we haven't given up, is because you have to. And we're in a place right now. I don't give out our exact location, but if the viewers are smart, they can put two and two together. We're out west, and our state is a very, kind of red free state. Fucking dangerous out here, man. Like,
it's so dangerous. Oh my God.
If you're not prepared to defend yourself, you're gonna lose. So it just shows, like you say, bro, like it's not just New York City anymore. Yeah. It's not just DC. It's not just,
it's not California, it's not San Francisco.
LA, right? It's everywhere that's bleeding dangerous right now.
It is.
Yeah, and it's I should remember giving way too much information, but my daughter just turned 21 a couple months ago, and for her 21st birthday, I bought her a SIG 365.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's like her friends must have thought I was crazy, buying her a pistol for her 21st birthday, but. It's kind of like a rite of passage in our house, that, hey, when you're old enough to legally carry, make it happen, So.
I wish more young women would carry, man. A lot of them just feel a lot of young ladies are very liberal and they
we're nurturers, most of us at heart. That's all. We don't want to hurt anybody, but
it's important these days for the young women to defend themselves. And, the more people who are armed, the more good guys who are armed out there, just the better for everyone else, I think, personally.
Yeah. But I also think women are we're a little naive thinking that, everything's fine. We live in this safe,
women are naive?
Nothing's ever happened to it. For a lot of women, things have not happened to us. And even if they have happened, they don't know how to fight back or prepare themselves. They just kind of
So actually, Jen, this is a good segue into for you, right? Because you met me, you were kind of in
I
your
was
shell,
such a
and
scaredy cat.
you know,
I was anxious of everything. I was always like, so nervous.
and then so I take you and we meet Kevin at BSR.
Yes.
And we go ahead and train, and now you're like a different girl almost.
Totally
You've
different.
got confidence when you're driving out on the roads, even in dangerous places. You probably feel.
I feel more comfortable to know that I can handle a situation. Like if we ever, when we go back to Vegas, if we ever get like attempted to be carjacked, like I'll be fine. I mean, you'll be driving, but like, if I was ever alone and then like somebody wanted to target me, I feel much more comfortable handling it. But it's more of that situation. I'm like, that's more rarity. I think what I can use the most from the training was walking by myself at night.
Oh, with the anti-surveillance stuff.
Yeah, just because I'm visually aware now. Like I'm not afraid to look around and stare at somebody right in their face. Like, what do you want? You want to fuck with me? Like, I'm gonna hurt you. Don't do it. And the fact that I'm not intimidated or looking down at my phone hiding, they see that and they're like, you know what? This girl wants to fight. I don't want to deal with that. Like, no, that's a problem.
Yeah, when you are aware of your surroundings and you're not glued to your phone, there is so much to see. Like it amazes me to see. Like I'll sit in the parking lot when my wife's in the grocery store or something, and it amazes me to see how many vulnerable young women there are that are just glued to that phone. Their heads are down, and luckily where we're at, I mean, we're in a safe spot where we live. I mean, it's very and maybe that's it, but they got to realize that, hey, it can happen anywhere though,
Yes.
And when you open your eyes up and you look around you, the people, like-minded people that that if shit happens, you can go to. When I walk into a restaurant, I can pick out former military or current cops or whatever. I know I just know where they're positioned in the restaurant. I know that that those are places that you want to get.
The position in the restaurant is a big giveaway.
What's that?
I said the position and where they're sitting in the restaurant to be able to observe and exits and stuff is a big giveaway.
Yeah, you may prove me wrong. I don't know, but you'll never find a cop with a back to his door at the entrance.
Right.
No. So if you do, he's probably drunk or something. But
or he's going low key undercover,
Yeah, I don't know. Even still, man, we go in. My wife and I, we're constantly fighting to see who gets their back to the door if it's in a position like that. I'll usually give in, let her take it because she's usually got the gun in the purse, So, but it's but it's nice to know that we give off a fellow patriots kind of give off a vibe, you'll be able to pick them out. So
yeah, that's what we always harp on that too. It's just the vibe that you give out. It's the presence that you give off. What do you call it? Like a command presence, or just an aura. I think when you know how to defend yourself, and like Jen is saying,
you
when
are stoic, you are confident.
You exude confidence, and people don't want to mess with that. They want a soft heart, right?
Right, exactly. So.
But it kind of all goes back to like, excuse me, I still got that nagging ass cough from the Kung Flu, man. So, it's like even on the police department, I was never. I was in shape back in my day. I'd lift weights and everything. So, I gave off that stocky appearance, but I was short, and I never really had to fight my way out of too many position, situations. It was all about your command presence. You head it off before it gets to that level, and it's kind of like, maybe not as good a shape as I'm in, but I still walk the streets with an air of confidence that, hey, you know what, I'm, like you said, don't fuck with me.
Don't do it.
I'm not in the mood. You know what I mean? So
you're about to have a really bad day.
There's been days that I've been in like again, I go back to the summer of love thing, and we have a part of the city I live in that kind of bought into that, had some troubles and stuff, and they blocked off streets and picketed and didn't set stuff on fire, but kind of jumped on some cars and things. And I'm thinking, man, I almost want to go down there, but I'm just going to let it happen naturally, because I was prepared back in those days that, hey, if something happens to me, they try to rip me out of a car, they're going to have a bad day, man. It's I always tell my wife, they're going to be leaking. Somebody's going to be leaking, So, my wife went, I'll tell this, and she had like a thin blue line flags on her vehicle. And she actually took the blue off the flag. And I said, what are you doing? And she goes, I don't want any trouble. I don't want to draw attention to myself. And I'm like,
yes,
you're caving in. You're caving into them. This is what they want. She goes, no, I don't need the trouble. And I'm like, well, maybe they do though. Maybe they do. And so it just, it upset me that, that because of what was going on around the country, that we felt like that because of our position or our job, that she had to take the blue line off the flag. I'm like, that's,
yeah.
Anyway, and because, well, I don't want our daughter to be out if she drives it, and so some of the stuff she made sense on, but other parts I was like, yeah, it just angers me, because I prepared like that. I prepared like if to get carjacked, So in our training at I tell everybody this. I told it even in the police academy as well, but I don't know if I even mentioned to you guys. It's you can't go through the mindset of if it happens. You go through the mindset when it happens, and and you run these mind games about, okay, if this happens, I'm going to do this, and be at least mentally prepared if you can't physically prepare for it. I don't know how many times I drove into a 7-Eleven at 3:00 in the morning. I just didn't drive into the 7-Eleven, and park and go in and get my cup of coffee. I would drive through slow. Drive past, look inside, and be, see what's going on with the clerk. One guy didn't do that on the police department and walked in the middle of a robbery. And so, those are kind of things that, I kind of instill with my children also.
Yeah.
Hey, be ready for if somebody at the stoplight tries to open your door. That's why I tell my daughter, lock your door every time you get in the car. Does two things.
Yeah.
It keeps the door from opening in a collision, and it also buys you that that extra time it takes for somebody to try to rip you out of your car. So
yeah, it's like that old. We were driving through a bad neighborhood last night, and she goes, "Babe, don't stop at the stop. Don't stop at the stoplights. Just go.
Keep going."
There's a time and a place for it, of course. But
yeah.
Well, we did one time. We were in Vegas, and you went, and I was like, oh my God, but that's because some guy, I didn't see that there was some guy in the corner trying to he was about to attack us, try to open the door. I didn't see that though, but
there's a lot you don't see. We were right by we were right.
You'll like this story, Kevin.
We were right by the border, U.S.-Mexico border yesterday, and we got pulled over by actually it was a sheriff, I think.
It's a sheriff.
I wasn't paying attention, and I was going a little fast, and so he pulls me over. She's on the phone.
I was doing emails, so I was like,
and
why are we?
All of a sudden, I got my hazards on. I turn off the car. She goes, "Where are we going, babe? What's going on?" I roll down the window. She's like, "What?" And then she sees a sheriff standing there. She goes, "Oh, hi." And the guy is taken back. He's like, "Hi." And then he starts saying, look, it's no big deal. We just, we want to make sure there's people that run
across the street. And I was confused, because I was like, why are they jaywalking? Why are they just running around out here? And I didn't understand. He was talking about illegals, running across the border. I was like, oh.
Yeah, and he was nice about it. He didn't even check the registration.
He didn't check license or anything. He was just you folks have a nice day.
It's funny to me how she sometimes is so, and she talks about it. She goes in the what is it, in the white, right? When she's with me sometimes, right? She's not paying attention. I'm driving, she's doing her thing.
Yeah.
All of a sudden there's a cop standing at the window. She had no clue what was going on.
No idea what's going on.
So I haven't seen the color white in 46 years, man. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Wow.
No, I didn't even know that was a color on the scale, man. Everything's yellow or higher, So
yeah.
it sucks living in that yellow orange stage your whole life. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
That's
like
why I
sleeping
have
on
gray hair.
planes, dude. Like, yeah. I can't sleep on planes. And one time I was talking with someone at the range, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like I'm the same way. It's because you're always in the yellow. Like you don't let yourself relax in public. I can't, dude. Like, yeah." This one over here, she'll go deep in the white.
So I was just telling a story, talking to a high school friend of mine today, and was telling a story. My my son lives in a southern, lives in the Carolinas, and he graduated from a school in the Carolinas with a national security intelligence degree, and in hopes of going into one of 3 letter agencies, and he was, had hopes of going into special forces, but he got into a car crash, a passenger in a car crash, his sophomore year of college, and he had a brain bleed, and had a severe, at the time, a severe head injury, and so he couldn't do the special forces stuff, and it kind of changed about where he was going in his life as far as with his degree, and so he got out of college, he went and joined the fire department. And knew every day that he woke up that he wasn't fulfilling what he thought he was here for, and so he switched over, and he's going to be graduating the police academy the 27th of this month. And
congratulations!
And I was telling the friend that my wife's almost ready to retire, and I of course did it for 27 years, and my father was a police officer, obviously, ever since I was born. So I said, I guess I've been born into it, and I will die in it also, having to worry about someone in my family. It was my dad, and I had to worry about myself and my wife, and now my son's getting ready to take it on. And I guess, the yellow and orange are clipped for me for the rest of my life now, so I'll never be able to relax, so anyway, I guess that's where it's going with that story, is that it's, it's kind of built in. It's normal to be hyper vigilant, And
well, for you guys, it's way more important than your average dude, right? Or chick, because your life literally depends on it every day. You're walking the beat, so to speak.
Yeah. It's you can't. It sucks. It sucks not being able to relax. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go to
ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
very true.
There is some truth. There is some truth to that. Like I said before, I started learning about the conspiracies.
Yeah.
I'm like, they life's gravy, man. It's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Till you find out who shows up at the Bilderberg conference.
People who before didn't put any stock in the conspiracy stuff, now all of a sudden are like coming over to that side of things, and they're going, "Oh, wait a minute! Like, hold on a second." And now it's like if you don't at least entertain some of the possibilities, I've got to question what's going on with you.
Yeah. Well, you talk about we in the law enforcement business, we talk about sheeps and sheepdogs. There is a plethora. There's too many sheep out there, that just want to go along, And what happens to the sheep? They go to slaughter, right? Mm-hmm. So you go, you just, I used to see these signs on bumper stickers all the time. It's usually, they had them usually on the left, it was the left that you always saw it on. It said, question authority, and it was because of who was in power at the time. But now I can't help but question authority now. It's like, I don't know. I'll tell everybody the best way I can describe it. It's like, and I apologize for this, but it's the pussification of America. We're just,
It's true though. We're viewed very weak, and it's just sad.
Well, she talks about this all the time as far as the dudes, right?
Yeah.
Before,
and I tell men too, because I'm just like, there needs to be a change, because I don't know what this new generation of men is, but they're boys. Yeah. They're very tiny. They wear shorts shorter than me.
Right.
You know, like I'm like, yo, I could kick your ass. Like you need to eat some meat or something. I don't know what's going on with you.
Yeah.
It's by design, though, man. It's by design.
Yeah, all the soy, like it's just not good.
Yeah.
You know, and then
how do we fix it? How do we fix it?
we need to make the men like, because the problem is when men become weaker, what ends up happening? Women become stronger, right? Somebody's got to wear the pants.
That's true.
Somebody's got to wear the pants. So it's like if the men allow the women to, if they don't lead, right? They're not taking care of themselves. They're not doing the right thing. Then the woman will do it because they're just looking at the man like, hey, like, what are you doing? You're not doing it. Well, I'm going to do it then. And that's what I think is going on in our country.
I think there's so many mixed messages sent out to kids these days, obviously, with the whole gender thing in schools, and
they're confusing the shit out of them. They don't understand. I was like, this is not appropriate for their development. They don't understand. Like, how are you gonna say they, them, he, she? And it's like when you ask them, like, oh, is this a boy or a girl? They're like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, that's what they're told. That's what they're taught, right?
So I think that there's been so many mixed messages sent, unbeknownst to parents, you know, because I think a lot of people now, woke up and paying attention to what's going on in the school boards right now because they realize they have so much power or they have more power than the parents. Even I thought, I didn't like a school board. What do they do? But when it comes to light about what they do, and you know, here just outside of where I live in Loudoun County, that was the epicenter.
Yeah, I remember the parents went down there. It was a big deal.
We were out there. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
we were out there. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I think it all goes back to like the National Organization of Women was so big about women's rights, and then yet they stand silent when you have a trans person who says that they're a woman and they whip up on women in a swimming pool, you know, and I'm like, okay, where are you now? Where is this? I mean, you know, my daughter plays college sports, and I said, there better not be any kind of dude that shows up and says that he identifies as a girl and tries to play lacrosse, you know, at her college, because I will absolutely, you know, I will lose it, you know.
Yeah, 100%, rightfully so.
But it's I think I just think that society is we're just I don't know if we're ever going to get it back. But
well, the same thing happened in Rome. You know, I mean, like literally the same thing started happening in Rome, where like the gender confusion and this and that and the bread circus, and you know, look where that led. So,
but notice how it's not in every other country. It's a major problem here.
Well, that's the interesting part is that, you know, in Europe and stuff, like they're very tolerant. They always have been very tolerant, but they don't.
You rarely see it. I saw it once.
Yeah,
we've been to Europe.
We spent a good amount of time out there, and we never saw that shit. Even in Berlin, which is like the most liberal city in Europe, like we didn't see that. So it's just interesting to see that, and that's why I say I think it's by design. And for what end, I don't really exactly know, but it has to be some kind of weird thing. It's some kind of weird thing going on specifically in the States.
Yeah, and just it starts in the education system. Some of these things that these teachers, I'm like horrified, and you see them on TikTok. Like I'm not very I don't go on TikTok much, but when I see things on Instagram from TikTok and the things that these teachers are teaching or what they have in their background, like they are very adamant about their communist ideologies, you know, about their Marxism. I was just like, okay, about their gender stuff and about sexuality. And I was like, first off, I was like, that child should not know your sexuality. I was like, that's irrelevant. I was like, why would this child need to know that?
I'm glad you brought up communism though, because I really think that that's a lot of what's going on.
Yes, they're absolutely. But remember that I sent you a while ago. It was like something about this was from like the 80s, the plan for communism.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the 59, something like that.
What do you think, Kev?
So I think it was Khrushchev that said that that we would raise the communist flag ourselves on our country, that Russia wouldn't have to do it, that we would do it ourselves. And he said that back in the early 60s, 62 or whatever it was. It's actually a good read. It was in it was in a Dillon Press, publication that, reloading ammunition company, actually sent this magazine, and I read it, and it was like, I read the back part of it, and it was shocking that, about some of the stuff he said that is coming true, that we're our own worst enemy. Our freedoms will eventually lead us to chains,
Yes.
and the communism story. I got to tell you this. The daughter was in senior year of high school or senior year. I can't remember. She had to do a paper on a public figure that took a stand for something. And I think it was that vague, So she chose. We're huge Ronald Reagan fans in this house, and I said, "Hey, do it on Ronald Reagan's stance on communism." So she wrote her little thesis statement or whatever it was and submitted it, and she was called to stay after class for a second to be told that no, that he wasn't not going to allow her to do it because the subject was too vague, for one, and two, that communism wasn't necessarily, or he says communism wasn't an inherently bad thing. And she came home and told me that, and I lost it. And I said, I'm calling the school. And she goes, "No, Dad, don't," because it was at the beginning of the year, and she had to have this teacher a whole year. And I'm like, that's his only shot right there. I said, if he says anything else that is out of line, we're gonna have a talk. I'm going to go and make some waves. So he, in typical family fashion, she okey doked him and went and did it on Nancy Reagan on Just Say No stance on drugs. Yeah, we got a Reagan in there somehow. So
Nice.
Smart girl.
But anyway, that's and I'm sure your viewers, I guess, are all like-minded with Patriotic Views and things like that. We have to. I know I've passed it down to my kids. We were not going to lose the country without a fight. So they know that that they're not going to get walked on. They're not going to be doormats. So and I just hope that everybody does their share and raises like-minded people, so we can we can take
our country back.
That's it. Save our country. I mean, it's kind of disturbs me when you see the generation that hasn't even held a job, that says,
and they have a degree in a college degree, and they're still like, they're not working.
Yeah. So you see them when I think they during the election, during the last election, they were, basically, holding signs, America was never great. Things like that, knocking the Make America Great Again thing. America was never great, and it just, I'm like, you're not even old enough to know anything. You know what I mean? It's,
ship them to China, ship them to Vietnam, ship them to like any other country, ship them to Cuba.
It's so cliche, it's so cliche to tell them that if you don't like it, leave it. But they won't, because they know that they'll get eaten up over there in other countries.
Exactly.
Well, that's one of the things I always recommend to young people is if you can travel, don't just travel like France, right? Like travel, go to third world countries if you can, even like India or whatever,
or even South America.
Go out there and experience some real life and some other shit, and then come back and see how much you dislike the country then.
Right, like see how much you are given. Why do you think everybody wants to come here and try to, like, they will die? Like, my family almost died to come here for the freedom. And it's just so sad to see people who are born here and not appreciate, but not only are they not appreciating it, but they're shitting on it too.
Yep. So I'm glad you brought that up, about, people coming from other countries, that it's unfortunate that you have, well, maybe it is fortunate because we can't control what's south of us right now. But that the big ocean helps moderate those that come over, you know what I mean? And why should just geographically, because you're geographically in a different spot than somebody why should you have different rights than somebody coming from overseas? You know, you should have to go through the same processes.
Yes.
My wife told me a story about a coworker who's, she had a nanny, an au pair that came in from one of the, I don't know, it was Germany or Switzerland, somewhere in the Central European, that just now got her citizenship, and she's been over here for 12 years or 11 years or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And that she was so excited when she became a citizen, but she'd been over here that long working, through visas and things like that, and doing it the correct way.
Yeah, and studying, learning about American history.
Yeah, and it's amazing about what they have to learn as to become a U.S. citizen that's not even taught to our own kids.
Correct.
And I think that that's where we're missing a lot of stuff. I mean, we're teaching about gender studies instead of history. I just it blows my mind. Well, again, I go back to that. If you don't teach them about history, they're going to learn about it because they're going to be living it.
They're going to be in it. They're going to repeat the history because they don't know. They don't know, like, hey, I've seen this before.
Also, you and I are kind of that last generation that learned actual history, where now the history they're learning is weird history. They change things around.
And it's also difficult because it depends on every school district will choose their books. So that's why these school boards are very powerful, because they are the ones that are picking out the knowledge, right, to educate the young generation. So it's important for parents to be involved.
Goebbels from Nazi Germany said, you control the young population, you control the population. So.
Yeah, we've the movement has woken me to realize about how much a school board can affect, they're the cause of the wave. They start to trickle. They're the pebble in the pond. You know what I mean?
They're the start.
Yeah. Then the ripple keeps getting bigger after that. So
I'm glad you said that, man, because that term woke, our viewers have been woke since long time ago. Some of them since the freaking Civil War over here. But no, I hate that term because it's we've been very much woke for a long time and see what's really going on. And I feel like it's just a play on words, like all the woke stuff these days. These guys are brainwashed like a motherfucker. They're just zombies running around. So
and they won't hear another side. To me, I'm like, you're so emotional, and it's like you need to not attach your emotions to these ideologies. You need to be open-minded to hear the other side so you can actually make
I think that's the mark of a true professional and a true someone who's a critical thinker is you're willing to hear both sides.
Enlighten me,
I see. The last time I had a conversation with a neighbor of mine, we were fighting we were all into this one scenario together. We were trying to fight the quarry that was encroaching on our rights, with I'll make it short. They rezoned some land to make it so that they could expand the quarry operation, which meant that it was going to be right on our doorsteps. So we were, we all formed a community, formed a group together. And this guy was a Bernie Sanders socialist. I mean, he was just, but outside of politics, outside of sitting down talking politics, we got along, as long as the politics didn't come up. Well, even when it did, we sat and had a couple beers and we were talking about it. We sitting around a campfire, smoking a cigar and drinking a beer. And we got to talking about politics and it never got heated. I mean, I wanted to hear his side and I told him my side and, we never agreed on anything, but we never, never came to, it was nice. It was cool hearing his side, because he came from a northeastern state. He was from Vermont or New Hampshire, wherever Leahy is. His daughter actually did an internship with Pat Leahy's office or whatever. So it was at Vermont, I guess it is, right? Yeah, so we got to talking about, he's all about the, I guess the equality thing, and and when I approached him with, well, does it, why should somebody that works hard, right, and makes a lot of money, why should half of their income go to somebody that just sits at home and plays video games? I'm like, explain it to me, and there was nothing he could do that could explain it, the correct way. Understand that, hey, medical benefits should be a human right. I don't think that, just because you don't have the money that you can't
survive
services. Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, there's got to be somewhere in the middle we can meet on that. But so I gave him the analogy. I said, okay, so you and I are in college, and I get an A, like I'm got like an A, a 4.0, and you got like a 1.3, but you need a 2.8 to
get your degree,
or to stay in school, so you don't get kicked out. Where I think I reversed it. I said I was the lower one, he was the higher one. Mm-hmm. You should share some of your grade point average with me so I don't get kicked out of college. And he goes, oh no, it doesn't work like that. I'm like, well, it's the same thing with money. It's exact same thing. And so we kind of got like, yeah, you don't get it, man. You don't get it. I said, no, I don't get it. And I guess I never will, so.
But I'm curious about people who are like that, right? They're like, oh, it doesn't work. But it's like, well, so what are you doing to have that ideology to share? Are you giving a certain amount of money to a charity every month?
Right,
are you like, you may want to preach these ideas to other people, but what are you actually doing to show that, right? Are you leading?
Well, it's like Bernie Sanders after his run, and then inevitable fail, he bought like a $3 million lake house. And it's like, well, I don't know. It just seems a little weird, a little wrong,
Yeah.
Well, we can all attach that back to some form of a conspiracy that there's a 1% elite that are running the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe Bernie is maybe one of that 1%. I mean, So we, everybody's just got to stay awake. That's it, and just pay attention to what's going on, and because the Klaus Schwab or whatever the dude is in Germany that he made the statement that by 2035 nobody will own anything and we'll be happy, and I'm like, I don't know about you, I'm not giving what I have up right now, so
you can try to take it.
Yeah, I can say, you can come try to take it. It ain't happening, So. But the sad thing is, there's certain segments of society that need to be taken care of, that wants to be taken care of like that, and I'm like,
it's because they don't have the confidence in themselves, right, to be able to do it and make it. And people are very fearful nowadays. That fear, they need to learn how to deal with fear. That's the thing, is like, they're so afraid that they won't make it that they'd rather like have housing and food and given a basic life, but they're just existing. That's not the right way to live.
No, right. Yeah, it's
so sad.
Well, bottom line is, I really think that guys like us and girls have to come together, and that's another big reason why we're out here. We're putting our faces out there and our names as well, and we're not afraid of anything.
Just your name. I'm afraid. I'm taking that part. Women, we don't like confrontation. Just like Kevin, your wife, that she's thinking about, she took the blue off, and I'm very similar like that, where I'm like, I don't want anybody to know my opinion. Like,
well, too late for that. We're out here online, so
they know my opinion, but like I pick and choose who I express my opinion to, right? But for me, it's also like, I don't want to be a target, especially with the car.
Yeah.
There is something to be said about that, about be the predator and not the prey, so I get it, where, but there's a time and place for everything. When it, if everybody does that, if everybody decides to go low key,
right,
then it gives off the appearance that everybody's on board with
what's happening. Yeah.
what's happening, you know.
Right.
And,
Right.
And I guess to me, I wanted to be the antithesis of what was going on. I wanted to be, you know, like, hey, I'm proud of what I did and what we do, and I'm not falling for your crap, you know. And you want to target me, you're going to be making a mistake, and you know, that's and sometimes people need to be made examples of, you know what I mean? So
No, they do.
It's true. It's
they
true.
do.
And I mean, I'm glad that you're coming out here and standing up for what's right, man. And you know, we need more guys, especially boys in blue, coming out and saying this stuff and saying, you know, it's not right what's happening here, and I'm going to take a stand. So I salute you for that, man.
Yeah. So I again, I appreciate the fact that you're trying to help people get on board with being able to protect themselves and to, you know, because again, it's a matter of when it happens to them that, you know, that we all have to be ready.
We want to make sure that hopefully people don't have to call you guys out as much, you know, and can take care of themselves a little bit too. So,
and it's just also like people don't prepare themselves for situations until something happens, then they'll do something. But I think, you know, us bringing light to situations that are happening in the country make people realize like it's important to prepare and also to be able to take care of yourself and your loved ones, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why we talk about not being able to just take care of yourselves, but it's amazing about, well, I had basic life-saving skills, right, with the police department, you know, CPR, you know, stop the bleed, you know, the normal, you know, small cuts. But, you know, after taking this job, this part-time job, you know, they add extra duties on us. And, you know, we actually do the, you know, TCCC, you know, the casualty care stuff where you're actually packing wounds and I feel so much more prepared now than when I was on the street, because now I know, hey, I knew how to put a tourniquet on. But now, you know, in lieu of just a tourniquet, hey, what else, you know, about with the packing of the wounds, you know, the special blood clotting dressings and things like that.
How to clean the wound or keep it clean, like, and
in times of civil unrest, you never know if you're ever going to get to a doctor, you know, and how, you know, how to keep it clean and so anyway, that's I suggest you. I think we talked that last time about, you know, would you recommend, what kind of training would you recommend if somebody was on a fixed income about how to spend that money, you know? And I'm not sure how I answered back then. I think I'm probably going to answer it the same way, is that it just depends on where you're at in your life and where you are geographically speaking, you know. You know, what kind of services you have available, you know. Driving is very critical. But so is shooting skills and you know, and you know,
medical skills.
I mean, I wouldn't know which one to tell people, you know, if they had one class to spend it on right now, where to go, you know. But
I was just doing a solo CQB course out in Texas, and I was making a joke. I said, you know, everybody loves CQB, right? It's true. All the tactical guys want to do CQB. But the instructor, he laughs. He goes, yeah, but, you know, I wish guys would just take the medical training, you know, spend some of this money on the medical training once a year. He said, I'd be happier even though I'd be losing money. And it's true. You know, you're way more likely to use stop the bleed or CPR or something like that than you are to have to go and do CQB, you know. So
and even if it wasn't in a terrible situation, what if you're just hiking or there's like an accident at work or you're using a tool or whatever, or I'm in the kitchen and I slice my hand.
Lord forbid something happens to anyone out there. You want your fellow human or neighbor to be able to help you before the real help gets there. I think so.
I'll give props to my son, because he's so much more prepared than I am when it comes to stuff. He has a blowout kit with him in his car. He takes with him, and just in his POV. And it was stolen along with some other things out of his truck about a year ago. And even still, one of the first things he replaced was that blowout kit, tourniquets, you know, bandages and things like that. That was one of the first things he replaced in it, and I thought it was kind of funny. Well, it was probably one that's the cheapest because he had substantial amount of weaponry stolen from his car, so it was sad.
Does insurance cover that?
What's that?
Does insurance cover
that?
No,
it didn't cover it.
Oh.
No. And the the crazy thing is I was so upset with him. He knew it. He dreaded making that phone call to me. And I said, well, one, what are you doing leaving it in your car, for one? And then he left the truck unlocked, but it was he says, Dad, it was out in the country. They're like 15 acre lots and stuff, this community, but hey, it still went on. They still went car hopping and
Right.
But at any rate,
it doesn't matter where you are, right?
I mean, here it is out in the country in the the northwest part of South Carolina, and it's kind of country out there, but yet somebody still felt the evil to go do wrong to their mankind, and went and car hopped and stole, broke into 5 or 6 cars that night along with a house. And I guess the silver lining was they caught the guy.
Real hero fucking move, that's absurd, man.
Yeah. So, but I said, I told him, I said, I made him feel even worse. I said, I just hope that brand new AK-47 stolen. I said, man, you better hope that thing doesn't get used on a cop. I said, I would,
lesson learned though, right?
What's that?
I said lesson learned, right?
Yeah. He won't do that again for sure. And then, they caught the guy and led the police on a high-speed pursuit. And he crashed out. They found a stolen pistol on him, but it wasn't my son's. And the guy would never come off about where the weapons went. So they couldn't do anything in his case. So he never got his stuff back. But I guess going back to my moral is that he went and replaced, he felt it so important to replace that blowout kit and other stuff he had in his gear, So.
I mean, that's a perfect example of sheepdog, man. Like we need more guys like that out there running around, whether they're on duty or off duty. In your son's case, he was his personal blowout kit, right? So like we need more guys like that. We're trying to, by having guys like you on, Kevin, to give us expertise, give us advice about, your time on the job and as an expert in, driving, medical, all that. That's what we're trying to do. Create more sheepdogs out there to hopefully replace some of these soy boys running around and all that. But man, we got to run. We got to actually go to jiu-jitsu soon. So,
that's right.
But it's
gotta choke some people.
Yeah. So a buddy of mine used to say in school, he says, if you do jiu-jitsu, no one will hit you. Anyway,
I've been doing jiu-jitsu for some time now, and she still hits me. So
yeah.
Anyway, Kev, dude, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, so I feel comfortable where we're at. If somebody was looking to get some training, I'll give the shout out to the company. It was formerly BSR, and it is now called Summit Point Training Center. So if somebody wants to Google it, they just do Summit Point Training Center by Exator. That's Xator. But I don't know the exact address because I think it's kind of quirky. They can just go ahead and just Google that if they're seeking any kind of that training that you guys taught. I mean, you guys went.
The training was amazing. I will say the instructors are top notch, learning to deal with you guys dealt with me very well, like a civilian. Normally you guys deal with people who have experience, but I'm just walking in like, I don't know what's going on.
Sometimes that's the best because you're a blank canvas, it's
that's
easy.
True.
It's easy to work with. And I will say this real quick. I know you got to go. My son, again, I've been talking a lot about him, but he sent me this podcast called Mike. I don't know if you guys heard Mike Drop. It's MIKE Drop. He's a former special forces dude, and he had another Force Recon guy on. So my son was so excited to send me this podcast link, and he said, fast forward it to like an hour and 14 minutes or whatever into it. So I went to it, and here was this force recon guy talking about being noticing that he's being followed, that surveillance detection. He sees it. He's in Ramadi, and he sees it, and he's making a series of right turns to see if he is in fact being followed. And sure enough, he's being followed. They went down into the traffic circle in the middle of town, and the Taliban cut him off. And he gave a shout out to BSR. He goes, thank God for all those years of training at BSR, because it kicked in, and I went forward and rammed the car. You rammed the pickup truck. You guys did that when you were at this, right?
That was so much fun, ramming front and back.
Yeah. So he rammed it. And he said it was nothing more beautiful than seeing Taliban flying out of the back of the pickup truck. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway, if people, if your followers, want to come out and see some of the training that some of the, like, those special forces guys went through years ago, they can come out and join us. So.
Guys, if you want to get some official, like, evasive driving, anti-surveillance training, BSR, now it's Sater Group, is the place to go. And get in touch with them, guys, because they'll be happy to train you up. So
yeah, good time,
bro. Thanks again for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. You guys be safe, keep vigilant, and keep training. And if you back out this way, I know we were discussing before, and come see me.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to get out there and do some more training at some point. So we'll definitely be seeing you around, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, guys, until next time, please remember that you are your first and last line of defense. And
don't be scared, be prepared.
all right, guys. Kev, have a good one.